Hello, I hope you all are doing so well. I was totally not planning on doing a video at all, but I know a lot of people are struggling with this right now, so I wanted to kind of share what I've experienced, what I've been learning about how to exist right now in this world, in your body. So what I started to notice towards the end of last year, like the last quarter of last year, I started to talk about this isolation of chemicals, like chemical compounds, right? So if we think of like a molecular compound or an atomic compound, um, what are all of the key elements that make up that? And part of what started to show in the energies was that there was a deep isolation that was happening. We were really pulling everything apart. So we're talking about the cellular body, okay? The energy field too, but the effect of it is really showing up in the cellular body, where we start to isolate all of the chemical makeup in the body. And what happens, and what has happened with that, is that then when we isolate the actual components, we start to see what else is in there, the fillers, the binders, right, the things that have been I want to use the word infiltrated, the things that have been added, let's say, that do not belong there. So in this period, into the last part of last year, of this sort of process of pulling things apart in order to isolate, in order to see what else is there, it's a deep clearing. But the issue is that this has affected the nervous system, right? And we've always said this, there's something going on with the nervous system that it can't process properly. I know there is this theory of the survival, right? The nervous system is a survival mechanism. All this fight or flight or freeze and fawn, and like you've learned to then stay stuck, right? The body stays stuck in these ranges. And yet, to me, there's always been this question of like, why does it get stuck like that, right? And I know the theory is, well, we live in this world and it's different now, and we're not sort of, that survival system isn't necessary. I've never really seen it as a survival system. I've called it more of a thrival system, that when we understand truly how the system works, we can use it in any manner. We can use it to support us no matter what sort of reality we are existing in, right? Or no matter what sort of societal system we are contending with. So the issue is really that our nervous system there's been an accumulation in our bodies which has not allowed the nervous system to operate properly. So what tends to happen now, so there's also been some sort of like, to me, there's been some sort of flip, like a switch has flipped, in a sense that in the past, we did not have full access to our energy field, right? Now, was this a matter of these fillers and binding kind of energies? It's possible that's kind of the same thing that's been happening. Um, so what I see myself experiencing, what I'm hearing other people experiencing, is a heightened sense of anxiety and agitation, right? As if there is like this energy that you cannot get out from you. It's affecting the sleep. It's non-restorative sleep then, right? You're waking up completely exhausted. It feels like Groundhog Day. It feels like you're just trying to get through one day just to go to bed, to wake up and do it all over again. So this is not, I will say, it's not anything new. It's not any kind of new energy. What's happening is that we now have full access to the power of our energy field, right? So in the past, when these fillers were in our nervous system and the nervous system was not able to function properly, we learned like it's as if your nervous system then is filled up with dirty energy, right? And so yet because we existed with that, we learned a lot of really bad habits. And I've been saying this for a while. We've been able to get away with a lot of stuff that we shouldn't have been able to get away with, right? Which means that, so if in the past we went to meditate, we went to take a walk in nature, right? We went to exercise and do whatever form of self-care, the effect of that was not as great as it should have been. So if I went to exercise or if I went for a walk and I was like, well, it didn't really make me feel better, so why should I bother, right? Like that was very true last year and all the years prior, right? This year, everything is different in the sense that, not in the sense, in the reality that your energy truly matters. The way you think and what you do has a direct effect now, where it did not in the past, right? So in the past, because things were not truly clear and clean, we started to sort of accommodate for that in unhealthy ways, right? So slacking off on the meditation, whatever it might have been. And again, like slacking off is not even the right word because it wasn't doing what it really should have done for us. Now it is, right? But the problem with it is that like we haven't realized this and we haven't adjusted to it yet, right? So what I have found, first of all, is that making myself sit and be in my own energy is very, very beneficial now. But the issue is that I learned to overcompensate in the past, right? Because it wasn't working properly. I had to really use my mind. I had to tell myself to calm down. I had to do specific things to force me into this place of kind of alignment, right? And feeling better about myself. We needed to overcompensate with other systems that we had in order to feel okay, instead of allowing the body, because the body wasn't fully online, right? So now the body is fully online and there's just a sense of mass chaos because whatever overcompensation we had to use in the past to survive is now working against us, right? It's very detrimental. So one of the things I'm finding with meditation, we'll start with that. There's a couple of points that I do want to address. One of them is like meditation and being in your own energy, right? Typically what I would do would be to find a meditation, or something specific would be going on, right, in my reality. So I would say, okay, I'm going to come in and focus on this thing. That is not working anymore. What I am finding I have to do is to sit, and instead of trying to tell myself to calm down and settle and clear my energy, the message has to come from inside the body, which means that I have to just sit and allow myself to settle. So it's really clearing your root, clearing the bottom of your feet, clearing your core, right? That's really where your effort, if I even want to call it effort, your focus should be initially. And then as you start to connect, right, into the earth, to source, however it is that you see it, then your energy really starts to flow, right? And then you can kind of listen what is coming up in your body and work with that and just allow that, right? Rather than doing sort of a more controlled, right? We had a goal. It's like, I just want to relax. I need to feel a certain way. I need to get rid of this feeling. I need to get rid of this energy. That kind of has to get put aside now, right? So it's getting yourself centered enough to allow that kind of syncing up with the divine, right? Whether you see that as, again, the earth body, Gaia, the creator, your ancestry. Yeah, you can feel that. So your only real job when you sit down is to just get yourself centered enough to make the connection for the flow. Okay, and then sit as long as you feel necessary. And you may find in the beginning, I know for myself, it was like I sat all day long because it just felt so delicious to feel filled up and releasing all of this anxiety, right, that had built up in the body. Okay, the other thing is waking up in the mornings. Brutal, totally brutal. So again, a part of it is that we're not releasing this energy that builds up during the day properly, right? It's not just our own experiences and how we perceive those experiences that build up, but we do get bombarded from other people's energies, right? It's just the reality of existing in a body. And there's nothing wrong with it, right? I think that this emphasis that has been placed on I'm so sensitive, I have to avoid, I have to protect, that is becoming very, very damaging now. What you have to do is learn to listen to the signals in your body and to tend to them before it gets to the point where you feel exhausted, completely drained, right? Again, a part of this is the nervous system. So working on being just present, working on clearing your core and being in alignment so that you can flow the energy, but then also working on our interaction with this reality. Now, again, part of that is going to be people, places, and things that you have to move in and about. And this is just a truth that we need to learn to work with. And over time, it will get easier. But the part about sleep, what I have really noticed is that it is a lot of it is in the mind, but bear with me because I haven't really talked about this or laid this out yet in order to make it a very clear picture. But if we think about, let's see, how do I want to start this? The way that we think about ourselves and the way that we think about our reality and the way that we then interact with our reality is based on our past and our history. So if we understand that our perception of ourselves, our thoughts and feelings about ourselves, and our life are pretty much established in childhood, right? And most of you watching, I'm sure, trauma, right? We've got a lot of trauma. We have emotional neglect. We have all of these things, which created a very sort of, it's coming through as almost like a squishy sort of perspective of ourselves, right? But I'm getting that in sense of like it's very malleable in that whatever we experience in life, then we start to take that on as our perspective of ourselves, right? So if we're having a lot of things happen, failures, disappointments, abandonment, we are like self-projecting that. Then we are taking that as a projection of who we are. What we have to work on, if we have experienced a lot of childhood trauma, a lot of sort of tragedy, neglect, abandonment, we really have to understand that that energy created a sort of this lens or this veil almost. And I was thinking about this yesterday, like I don't even really know if there is a true veil between, I mean there can't be, it's impossible, right? For there to be a veil between the physical and the ethereal. Like you are both. The veil is the understanding and belief, how you see yourself. That is the veil. Your vision of yourself is the veil, right? Unfortunately, so much of that gets formed from negative experiences. So, and it's not even specific, it doesn't have to be specific thoughts. Like, there were days for sure where I would wake up and be like, I hate myself, I hate my life, nothing's ever going to change, this completely sucks, I don't want to be here, right? For sure. When I was going through some really awful times. More often than not, though, it's more of a sense, right? Those thoughts, those specific phrases start to just kind of become muddled, right? And it starts to become a feeling, sort of like, when you're depressed or you're sad, it's like, what is it? It's just an internal sort of atmosphere and experience that we carry with us, right? So when we're waking up, it's really important to pay attention to what you're actually feeling. Because what I started to notice is that when I would wake up, I would immediately, and they weren't thoughts, but it was more, again, of this sort of glommed, like big ball of like, oh, the things that I have to take care of or that aren't taken care of. And I wasn't, again, it wasn't very specific, like I was ticking them all off a list. It was just an overwhelming sort of all-encompassing sensation. But when I started to really look at it, that's when I started to see all the parts and pieces, right? Like, oh, here's all the things I have to take care of for my kids. Oh my God, I can't believe it's like this. Oh my God, right? So I have had to work, and it's taking a lot of effort, right? But the payoff is freaking enormous. This is what's so amazing about energy, right? And when the energy is actually connected, that it has immediate effects. Now, it doesn't feel like it has an immediate effect because there's so much to it that we need to unravel first. Like, we're not really seeing the full picture of how we are projecting our past into the future still. And that's essentially what's happening, right? Because we have this way of feeling about our life that's all going to be based on past experiences, right? We are literally projecting that into our futures every morning. And so I think the first step, right, is to really notice when you wake up in the morning, what is your first thought? And more than likely, because you're exhausted and your body is hurting, your first thought is like, this sucks, right? so right there. And again, it's not an overnight thing. It's going to take maybe, a couple of weeks to really start to see this for yourself. But once you get it, like, oh my God, the way that things can shift so quickly. Now, it's not going to be this thing where once you get it, just everything clear, right? Because it's in every area of our lives. It's in our entire beingness, right? Our way of thinking about ourselves, our way of interacting and exchanging with this world has all been based on the past. The past has been traumatic and negative, and we are essentially projecting that into our future until and unless we really start to look at these things, right? So the pain, the pressure, this live wire feeling, right? That motor type feeling, that is all about you needing to learn how your nervous system is truly designed, and understanding that this is not your fault either, right? Like I said, there was a lot of extra energy, a lot of fillers, and a lot of binders that were not allowing the nervous system to operate properly. And because of that, we overcompensated in ways which, again, they worked back then. They allowed us to survive. They are working against us now and very detrimental, actually. So know that you're okay. This isn't your fault. This isn't anything that you were doing wrong. It's just that now it's like an updated manual, right? For how to work with our bodies and how to live in a body that has, well, how do I want to say this? In many ways, this is an incredibly exciting, I mean, it is, it's a super exciting time. It's just that we need to take a step back, and we need to look at this clearly and understand this, because all of the things that we had anticipated and talked about and knew to be true about energy but weren't seeing the effect of it, it's actually true now, and we can see the effect of it. But we've become so, as I said, accustomed to overcompensating in what are now unhelpful ways, but also a bit like probably disenchanted, right? Being told we're so powerful, knowing we're so powerful, and yet, but if life is like this, does it really mean that I'm powerful, right? So probably feeling a lot of shame and guilt, and self-loathing, perhaps, when we look at the way our lives are right now. So it's really these two parts I would say to focus on, which is the nervous system and how it has been how it has been affected by these fillers and binders, right? And how it was not operating properly. So now to start to get to know with a properly operating nervous system interfacing with your energy field, how does that work for you? And I was saying this for so long and I didn't know why I was saying it last year, but I was saying that we are going to have to get to know ourselves again. We are going to have to learn to understand what it's really like to work with our energy field. And we don't know that yet. And yeah, I know there's like Reiki and chakras and this and that, right? This is completely different. This is you listening to your body, to your energy, and for the first time, as you hear and feel those impulses, to react and to take action on that. It's very, very different because it was all sort of external messaging about this is how your energy field should work. You should clear your chakras. You should clear your crown. You should connect to the earth. You should do it this way or that way, right? To me, that is all getting thrown out. And what has happened really with this isolation time is that these fillers and binders, right? They were creating this sort of like interstitial or where there should have been clear interstitial space, it was all clogged up, right? So not just in our own cellular body, but also collectively with other beings as well, right? So that those messages that we were told and the way that we were told to affect our energy fields in our bodies was true to a degree that there were fillers and binders there. What has happened with this isolation is that we are completely autonomous now in our energies. And I just don't think people are fully understanding or realizing this yet. So if you're listening to this and you're resonating with it and it's making sense, you're really at the forefront of this separation from collective energy. And by collective, I mean unhelpful, binding energy that wants this sort of magnetic mass that can really then be controlled with sort of one overarching, do you see this? Sort of like atomic electron field, right? We can keep it contained as a source of power. We have separated from that, right? And it's, I see that there are still a lot of energies that are glommed together in that way. I think as more, it's almost like parts and pieces starting to break off at the edges, right? So as more and more start to separate from that sort of, I mean, it is that sort of mind control, that hive mind, right? But it starts not, and this is the funny thing, it's like people think, oh, my mind is not control. It doesn't start with your mind. It starts with your body. It starts with your energy, and that is not of the mind. So the mind is really the last one to figure it out, right? But also, once you figure it out in your mind, then you can take back your mind in order to shift your body and your energy. So it's sort of this alpha and omega kind of cyclical, unending process here. So that is the one piece, right? Your nervous system. And then this is where we really start to separate from our old existence and our old way of being. So I would say, if you could set your alarm for an hour earlier than what you typically wake up, and chances are you're waking up before it anyway, like with the sleep and how bad it's been, right? Chances are you've got space there anyway. But I would say if you could give yourself an extra hour, and upon waking up, right, and you may even need to write this down to remind yourself in the morning what you're doing here, because that thought stream starts as soon as we wake up, right? It's we wake up and we are immediately projecting our past into our present and therefore into our future. So this isn't to say, oh my God, when you wake up, don't do that. That's not going to happen. It's actually going to make you feel worse. To wake up and give yourself space. And you're going to give yourself space to just go and sit. and do this sort of practice that I described earlier, right? Which is to sit and just be present with what you're feeling. Allow yourself to align and settle. And that may be really hard in the beginning too, right? Because then you start to become aware of the anxious. It's going to take time for you to sort it out. And I want you to know that that is okay. And I want you to know that you cannot fail at this. And I want you to know that you're not behind, because this is actually the process. And the fact that you're going to sit and try to work through this is the process itself. This is you doing the work, okay? You have to kind of push away everything that we've done so far, in a sense that you may be telling yourself, I should be farther along by now, my life should be better, I know so much, I'm an energy being, like how come I'm struggling? You just please put that all to the side. This is something very, very different that's happening here, okay? So you're not behind and you're not failing, and you are taking the steps to start to take responsibility for your energy in this life that's showing up right now in this moment, okay? So please don't, and I know even as I say, right, we don't intentionally do this to ourselves. It just is. We shame ourselves. We have these little covert ways of beating ourselves up and shaming ourselves, and where it came from is this criticism in the past, right? The way that people told us we were wrong. We so internalize that. We don't realize it's been playing out in ourselves, right? And we talk to ourselves in this way every day. It's just present there. So we're really going to start to work on rooting this out, and you're going to start to feel better. I promise you, you will. It's going to be a little bit wonky, because again, it doesn't like stick, but you start to become more and more aware every moment of every day how you have been perceiving yourself and talking to yourself. And that can be a little bit kind of crazy making, right? Because now you have these two minds going on of like, oh my God, this is the reality I know should be true in the energy, and here's what I'm actually seeing I have been doing to myself as a human this whole time, right? So this is really that split, right? That I think people talk about 3D, 5. It's like I don't think it's that at all. I think it's your conditioned version of yourself from the past, right? That is projecting into your present, on your present, and into your future. It is all you, but it's really hard to admit that, right? Unless we're looking at things clear. So that's really the issue. Like the issue is not that you're not meditating enough, and you're not deserving enough, and you're not compassionate enough towards other people. It is not that at all. It's that we don't fully understand the effect that conditioning has had on us as a human, and how it has become entrained in us, and how we push that into our futures. So you've been doing the legwork. You have been looking at your childhood. You've been looking at your past. You've been examining yourself. You know your wounds. This is wonderful. You have stockpiled all the information you need. The only thing you need now is this new manual. How does this really interface and work? Okay, and we're going to start working through this. It's such a brilliant, once you start to feel this, you're going to be so excited. I'm so excited for humanity, the future of humanity. I guess I'm laughing because, prior to this year, I had a very different perspective of like, oh, this is how we're going to change the world, and we're going to do it this way, and like the world doesn't understand how they're being controlled. Oh my God, it just comes through our bodies and our beings, and it's just amazing how we can create a completely different reality for ourselves. So I love you all so very much. I am so glad that you are alive. I'm so glad that you are here to experience this. And I am so looking forward to being on this journey with you. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Take good care. We'll talk soon.